Hi there, this is Denyse Drummond-Dunn from C3Centricity, and I'd like to share with you a presentation I gave a few months ago at the Swiss Business Intelligence Day. It's entitled, "It's Not What You've Got, It's the Way That You Use It." We've all heard a lot about data and data management, how to get it, how to analyze it, and how to show it. But I'd like to talk about it from the customer and consumer perspective, and share some of my experiences in using data in some of the leading consumer products companies around. As you may already know, I've been lucky enough to have worked for some of the best marketing organizations in the world, including Gillette, now a part of P&G, Philip Morris International, and most recently for Nestle. Since setting up my own consultancy, I've had the privilege of working with many more global leaders, not just in consumer packaged goods, but also in pharmaceuticals, finance, leisure, and retail. What I found fascinating is that no matter what the industry, everyone has similar problems when it comes to data management. So let me start with a quote from Dan Ariely, who is a best-selling author and professor at Duke University in the US. He said, "Data is like teenage sex. Everyone talks about it. Nobody really knows how to do it. Everyone thinks everyone else is doing it. So everyone claims that they're doing it." Now, business intelligence has always worked with lots of data, but we never called it big until recently. Big data has certainly been a hot topic over the past couple of years. We'll agree that the data available within a company today is much, much bigger than it was even just a few years ago. And it's getting even bigger. In fact, the data market more than doubled in the past 2 years and is estimated to almost triple in the coming 4. I think these are actually conservative estimates, with the Internet of Things promising real-time data exchange in so many areas of our lives. Today, about 3/4 of all this data is generated by individuals like you and me, as we create and move digital files around. A typical office worker produces 1.8 million megabytes of data each year. That's about 5,000 megabytes a day, which includes downloading movies, Word files, email, and the bits generated by computers as that information is moved along mobile networks or across the internet. This sets a challenge for all of us not only to manage it, but also to review, analyze, and make meaning of it all. Looking only at the internet, the latest numbers of what's happening in just 60 seconds is mind-blowing. 204 million emails are sent, and judging from my own inbox, I think I'm getting more than my fair share of those. 2 million Google searches are carried out. 72 hours of videos are uploaded, and 15,000 tracks of music are downloaded, and that's just from iTunes. All these exchanges also mean that data availability is becoming the norm, and people almost expect to have access to what they need exactly when they need it. And no difference in the office. This is my own very simplified view of how BI fits into the world of data management. BI, at least in the early days, was mostly inward-looking. It ran data mining exercises, reviewed performances, developed reports, and occasionally dashboards. It was, and still is in many organizations, concerned with operational efficiencies, cost-cutting, and benchmarking. Competitive intelligence uses external competitor knowledge to support and advise internal decision-making. Though the term business intelligence is sometimes synonymous with competitive intelligence because they both support decision-making, BI uses technologies and applications to analyze mostly internal structured data and business processes. On the other hand, competitive intelligence gathers, analyzes, and disseminates information with a topical focus on company competitors. If understood broadly, business intelligence can include the subset of competitive intelligence. Investor relations uses internal data to get external people to support the company. And market research is mostly outward-looking. They study behaviour, attitudes, measure images and satisfaction, and try to understand consumers' feelings. That information is then used, primarily by marketing, to develop actions and communications for these same consumers. The 4 quadrants, even today, still usually work in isolation. But that must change due to the arrival of more and bigger data from outside the company. According to a recent Forbes article, BI is at a tipping point. We're going to be working in new ways. We'll be using both structured and unstructured data. There's going to be a consolidation of suppliers. The Internet of Things will send more and more information between both products and companies. And thanks to technology, data scientists will finally be able to spend more time on information management than they do on data preparation. The following month, GigaOM echoed these thoughts, claiming that we're no longer in BI 2.0, but rather 4.0. They said that the volume of data and the number of people now exposed to it makes data availability to everyone essential. No longer does BI involve only the CEO and IT specialists. Google Glass, as being tested by Virgin, is a great example of this. It delivers real-time, relevant information to Virgin's hosts and hostesses to meet, greet, and advise its passengers. Their customer support team can accompany their VIP guests and advise them on delays and gate changes as they happen. Google Glass enables them to get out from behind their desks and interact more with the guests they're trying to please. 14,000. Aaron Zorner's Chief Research Officer of the MDM Institute was recently quoted in Information Management as saying that the typical large company has 14,000 or so databases on average. How many do you have? More? Less? It doesn't really matter how many you have. These days, we all have far too many of them. I know for a fact that most of that data sits in databases in individual departments and is never reviewed, let alone integrated with those in other divisions. This increase in data will certainly not be met with an equivalent increase in people or time to analyze it all, so we'll have to do things differently. My suggestion is to take a look at what management thinks about data today and then to make changes accordingly. Business Intelligence interviewed top management on what they thought about their data, and this is what they found. They say it comes from multiple disparate sources. It's rarely, if ever, available in real time. It can't easily be accessed without the help of IT, and it anyway takes far too long to customize it to what they actually need. What's interesting from this study is that management aren't saying that they don't need it. In fact, it actually looks as if they want to have access to more of it. But more of it in a way that makes it easy to find what they want when they want it. Another finding from the survey shows their thoughts about data delivery. Currently, they're getting their information primarily through emails and spreadsheets. Now, I find this shocking that today we still expect management to take the time to review all the data and to draw their own conclusions. Less than 1 in 8 are getting dashboards, which is their preferred medium. They also want mobile delivery so that they can see what they need where and when they need it. Now, this study already provides us with a simple plan to satisfy management's needs and to help us meet our own challenges of data abundance. This is what we should prioritize, since we can no longer continue to do what we've always done in the same way we've always done it. I see the priorities as being as simple as ABC: accessibility, business impact, and consistency. We need to provide information where and when it's needed, and in such a way as to have maximum impact on the business. This means making it easy to draw conclusions quickly and simply, and why the number one demand from the business today is dashboards. Dashboards also have the advantage of demanding consistency, so no time is lost in reviewing the information in order to understand it. Managers will immediately know where the information they are looking for is situated. However, things aren't really as simple as that. With the availability of more information comes the need to make it available to more people, and more people will also mean more and different needs. To review the accessibility challenge, I find the tree is a great metaphor for what we struggle to achieve. The roots can be compared to all the different sources of information we have at our disposal. And as we've seen, they're forecasted to actually continue to grow. Some of it comes from internal sources such as operations, sales, and finance. But more than ever today, we're also getting a lot of understanding about the market from external sources, such as social media and market research, to name just two. All this information is integrated, analysed, and reported in dashboards. This is the tree trunk, the one view that is sufficient for top management in most cases. But as we've already mentioned, not everyone needs the same granularity of information. Therefore, we need to make it available at different levels of detail. My experience suggests three types of information sharing. The leaves are like data warehouses, where the raw or nearly raw data sits. The twigs are the information repositories, where analysed data and information resides. And the branches are the knowledge libraries, where the integrated, actionable insights sit. Now, one of the biggest challenges when setting up databases of any sort is in harmonization of its master data. When you involve consumer data, consumers will talk about, say, a pizza, not the brand, sub-brand, variant, flavor, packing, and size that we would use to define it. So we have to find a way to translate what the consumer is saying into the products as we record them internally. And as if that wasn't enough, you can sometimes come across other sorts of surprises when working on a project. For instance, recently for a client, I found that there were 3 other projects running at the same time that were also looking at product identification. Luckily, being an outsider, I was able to ask some stupid questions of a lot of bright people, and this is how I came to learn of the other projects. No one in the department that had hired me knew about them, and none of the other project leaders had thought to involve other departments than their own. This is another fact about starting with the basics that we all know is how we should go, but which we seem to forget in the heat of the action of starting BI projects. Now, consistency is what we're all looking for in master data, no? Well, I'm going to have to be Swiss and say it depends. Sometimes you have to dig just a little deeper. On another recent project, I discovered that customer complaints were being sent to research and development for resolution. However, I quickly noticed that the number of complaints received by them was significantly lower than those being recorded by customer services. Now, looking into this in more detail, I discovered that R&D were not counting any complaint where they didn't have the product returned for testing. As a result, their numbers were significantly lower. The reason they'd taken this decision was because their annual objectives were partly based upon complaint levels and getting a reduction in them. That was already something to sort out, but I succeeded in getting management to take action when I actually pointed out that R&D were working on the number 5 complaint and not the number 1. That got their attention. Another example of consistency that didn't work was in a company that standardized the ways of working without taking into account the local cultural differences. This meant that consumer helplines were limited to only the telephone when more and more people these days prefer to connect by email. Their working hours were aligned to the office hours, and this suited the headquarters, but not the customers. I discovered that most people tried to call when they were using the company's products, which was in the evening. They got a really helpful message if they called at that time, giving opening hours with no other opportunity to get the support they needed. Therefore, I say consistency, yes, but blind consistency. So accessibility, business impact, and consistency are vital to the success of future data management and usage. But I feel the urge to add one more, that of asking the right question. Although business intelligence is used to asking questions, I think market research are the real experts in questioning, so we should see what we can learn from them. For example, BI is used to running forecasts. They start from past data and current reality to develop forecasts based on algorithms. They will do this within their teams with perhaps input from finance. Market research, on the other hand, is more likely to work with societal trends and develop plausible future scenarios, brainstorming across the organization to gather a wide range of perspectives. Making data more accessible to more people will certainly help this question development, as I think getting the right answers depends upon asking the right question. I therefore like to finish with one example of this. This was for an online grocery chain in the US. We were called in to help them with a decline in sales. Now, a normal BI project would probably have involved a review of manufacturing, looking for possible cost savings, or distribution to consider cost cutting, or perhaps a shared distribution service, or perhaps a review of order fulfillment to see whether staff reductions were possible. All great ideas that were tried, but they led to little change and sales continued to decline. Taking the customer's perspective, we started with market shares and reviewed how the order was taken and delivered, and found some local trends that warranted further examination. This resulted in some analysis that developed into a recommendation engine. With 4 simple questions, we were able to turn the trend around, and the client is enjoying renewed growth today. Now, this is how it worked. The driver would ask 4 questions, suggesting something that they hadn't bought in a while, something that others liked in the neighborhood, asking if they would like an extra something that they had already ordered, and then offering them a $1 discount off something that they hadn't ordered. Depending upon the household's response, on their next visit, they would then adapt these 4 questions based upon the orders that had been taken. The results speak for themselves. Annual household spend increased by 15%, and the number of categories purchased by 42%. Promotion and discount allowance declined by 13%, and annual EBIT went from a negative 50 million on average over the previous 3 years to a positive 100 million. All of this by just asking the right questions of the data they already had about their clients. Personalizing the promotions and discounts offered also enabled them to save significant expenditure that in the past was just encouraging purchases that would have anyway been made. This example of a personalized service is definitely the way forward. Now, coming back to those teenagers I showed you at the beginning, they already share secrets online using social media, so they can't really be called secrets anymore. They're comfortable to share their personal information for personalized services, and they trust companies to whom they give their data. Using the information available to us will need careful control in order not to lose this trust. The customer should be our inspiration, and starting with the customer will always lead to greater satisfaction and business growth. Getting the most from our data is as simple as A, B, C, and D. Accessibility will become even more important as more data flows into the organization and more people want to make use of it. We therefore need to build flexibility in both the warehouses we build and the dashboards we create. The business impact will also widen, and more demands for real-time dashboards suited to different departments will come. The consistency of the master data will continue to be a challenge. With the increase of data from multiple news sources as well as the fact that more people will get involved, will complicate things further. And finally, the increase in demands to understand our customers better will need updated tools and processes to meet them. Hopefully, I've shown you that these are all positive things that will impact the future of business as well as the business intelligence profession. Starting from the customer and not from the business's point of view will make better use of the data we have. So I leave you with one final quote. This time from Nick Dell from Business Intelligence. Data is redundant unless it can be analysed and converted into understanding that drives fact-based decisions. I hope I've inspired you to look for new ways to work with your own data and that none of it remains redundant for long. Thanks for listening. Feel free to contact me at c3centricity.com or by email, telephone or Skype. I look forward to inspiring your own customer centricity, and until then, goodbye.